My name is Antoine. Welcome to My Dharma Path. This is the 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the lifespan of the Tathāgata. The Buddha reveals his true nature, not a man who awakened under a tree, but a timeless present who has always been guiding beings. Burton Watson's translation opens the door to cosmic memory. Let's reflect on the eternal Dharma and the Buddha who never leaves. Chapter 16 is the spiritual heartbeat of the Lotus Sutra. It's where Shakyamuni Buddha reveals something astonishing. His enlightenment did not happen recently under the Bodhi tree in India. Instead, he attained Buddhahood immeasurable kalpas ago, so long ago that ordinary time collapses under the weight of it. This chapter reframes the Buddha not as a historical figure, but as an eternal presence. He has always existed, always taught, always guided beings toward awakening. His appearance in this world is not the beginning of his story, is a compassionate performance, a skillful means upaya to help people relate to him. There's some key concepts in this chapter made simple. Kalpa, a cosmic time, unit so vast it makes centuries look like seconds. The Buddha says he became enlightened countless kalpas ago. Tathāgata, a title for the Buddha meaning thus come one or thus gone one, someone who has transcended birth and death, which is one of the objectives of Buddhist practice. Upaya, or skillful means. The Buddha appears to be born and die, but this is a teaching tool. He does it to help people grow spiritually. Eternal Dharma. The teachings of the Buddha are not temporary. They're always available, even if we don't see them. Why this matters? For someone who feels unwise, unworthy, or unsure, this chapter is a revelation. It says, you are not separate from the Buddha. The Dharma is not far away. The teacher is always present. Even if you don't understand every term or concept, the message is clear. Awakening is possible because the Buddha never truly leaves. He's not locked in history. He's alive in your courage, your compassion, your daily choices. There is a link to the 16th chapter on the channel if you want to read or read along. And I'm going to start. The lifespan of the thus come one. At that time the Buddha spoke to the bodhisattvas and all the great assembly. Good men, you must believe and understand the truthful words of the thus come one. And again he said to the great assembly, you must believe and understand the truthful words of the thus come one. And once more he said to the great assembly, you must believe and understand the truthful words of the thus come one. At that time the bodhisattvas and the great assembly, with Maitreya as their leader, pressed their palms together and addressed the Buddha, saying, World Honored One, we beg you to explain. We will believe and accept the Buddha's words. They spoke in this manner 3 times, and then said once more, we beg you to explain it. We will believe and accept the Buddha's words. At that time, the World Honored One, seeing that the bodhisattvas repeated their requests 3 times and more, spoke to them, saying, you must listen carefully and hear the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers. In all the worlds and heavenly and human beings and the shores, all believe that the present Shakyamuni Buddha, after leaving the palace of the Shakyas, seated himself in the place of practice not far from the city of Gaya. Can you tell us about the city of Gaya in the 16th chapter, the Lotus Sutra?
The city of Gaya in the Lotus Sutra's 16th chapter is a significant backdrop. It's where Shakyamuni Buddha achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. The chapter emphasizes his eternal nature. portraying that his enlightenment wasn't a one-time event, but an eternal reality. Gaia symbolizes the place of spiritual awakening, which resonates deeply with the themes of eternal Buddha and everlasting truth in the Lotus Sutra. This chapter's profound teachings inspire many in their spiritual journey. How does this align with your reflections, Antoine?
From the city of Gaia, and there attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. That's a stage of enlightenment. First is nirvana, and then the next stage is Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. But good men, it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas since I, in fact, attained Buddhahood. Suppose a person were to take 500, 1,000, 10,000, a million, nayuta, asmaka, 1,000 millionfold worlds, and grind them to dust. Then moving eastward each time, he passes 500, 1,000, 10,000, a million, nayuta, asmaka worlds, he drops a particle of dust. He continues eastward in this way until he has finished dropping all the particles. Good men, what is your opinion? Can the total number of all these worlds be imagined or calculated? The Bodhisattva Maitreya and the others said to the Buddha, World-honored one, these worlds are immeasurable, boundless. One cannot calculate their number, nor does the mind have the power to encompass them. Even all the voice hearers and Tathāgata Buddhas, with their wisdom free of outflows, could not imagine or understand how many there are. Although we abide in the stage of avivratika, we cannot comprehend such a matter. World-honored one, these worlds are immeasurable and boundless. At that time, the Buddha said to the multitude of great bodhisattvas, Good men, now I will state this to you clearly. Suppose all these worlds, whether they receive a particle of dust or not, are once more reduced to dust. Let one particle represent one kalpa. The time that has passed since I attained Buddhahood surpasses this by 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million nayuta asmaka kalpas. Ever since then, I have been constantly in this Saha world, preaching the law, teaching and converting, and elsewhere I have led and benefited living beings in hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas and asmakas of lands. Those are some numbers that are hard to understand. Can you explain the numbers in the 16th chapter, the asmakas and the other numbers?
The 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra is filled with symbolic numbers. The 500 dust atom kalpas and the 5,000 dust atom kalpas represent inconceivable lengths of time, emphasizing the eternal existence of the Buddha. The numbers aren't meant to be taken literally, but serve to illustrate the profound and timeless nature of enlightenment. It showcases the boundless compassion and wisdom of the Buddha, transcending ordinary understanding. How does this symbolism resonate with your insights, Antoine?
Talk about the extinction of the Buddha and what's meant for him to enter extinction.
In the context of the Lotus Sutra, the extinction of the Buddha doesn't imply a final end, but rather a compassionate means to inspire beings to seek enlightenment. The Buddha enters extinction to demonstrate the impermanence of all phenomena, urging followers to awaken to their own Buddha nature. It's a skillful means to guide beings toward realizing the eternal and unchanging truth. This teaching reflects the depth of compassion and wisdom in Buddhist thought. How does this view of extinction resonate with your reflections, Antoine?
Okay, I'm going to go on reading. Good men, during that time I have spoken.
I'm sorry, something's going wrong
about the Buddha,
Let's try talking
and
a
others,
little later.
and describe how they entered nirvana. All this I employed as an expedient means to make distinctions. Good men, if there are living beings who come to me, I employ my Buddha eye to observe their faith and to see if their other faculties are keen or dull. And then, depending upon how receptive they are to salvation, I appear in different places and preach to them under different names, and describe the length of time during which my teachings will be effective. Sometimes when I make my appearance, I say that I am about to enter nirvana, and also employ different expedient means to preach the subtle and wonderful law, thus causing living beings to awaken joyful minds. Good men, the thus come one observes how among living beings there are those who delight in a little law, meager in virtue and heavy with defilement. For such persons I describe how in my youth I left my household and attained anuttara samak sambodhi. But in truth, the time since I attained Buddhahood is extremely long. As I have told you, it is simply that I use this expedient means to teach and convert living beings and cause them to enter the Buddha way. That is why I speak in this manner. Good men, the scriptures expounded by the thus come one are all for the purpose of saving and emancipating living beings. Sometimes I speak of myself, sometimes of others. Sometimes I present myself, sometimes others. Sometimes I show my own actions, sometimes those of others. All that I preach is true and not false. Why do I do this? The thus come one perceives the true aspect of the threefold world exactly as it is. There is no ebb or flow of birth and death, and there is no existing in this world and later entering extinction. It is neither substantial nor empty, neither consistent nor diverse, nor is it what those who dwell in a threefold world perceive it to be. All such things the thus come one sees clearly and without error, because living beings have different natures, different desires, different actions, and different ways of thinking and making distinctions, and because I want to enable them to put down good roots, I employ a variety of causes and conditions, similes, parables, and phrases, and preach different doctrines. This, the Buddha's work, I have never for a moment neglected. Thus, since I attained Buddhahood, an extremely long period of time has passed. My lifespan is an immeasurable number of asmaka kalpas, and during that time I have constantly abided here without ever entering extinction. Good men, originally I practiced the bodhisattva way, and the lifespan that I acquired then has yet to come to an end, but will last twice the number of years that have already passed. Now, however, although in fact I do not actually enter extinction, I announce that I am going to adopt the course of extinction. This is an expedient means which the thus come one uses to teach and convert living beings. Why do I do this? Because if the Buddha remains in the world for a long time, those persons with shallow virtue will fail to plant good roots, living in poverty and lowliness, will become attached to the five desires and be caught in the net of deluded thoughts and imaginings. If they see that the thus come one is constantly in the world and never enters extinction, they will grow arrogant and selfish, or become discouraged and neglectful. They will fail to realize how difficult it is to encounter the Buddha and will not approach him with a respectful and reverent mind. Therefore, as an expedient means, the thus come one says, monks, you should know that it is a rare thing to live at a time when one of the Buddhas appears in the world. Why does he do this? Because persons of shallow virtue may pass immeasurable hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of kalpas, with some of them chancing to see the Buddha and others never seeing one at all. For this reason, I say to them, monks, the thus come one is hard to get to see. When living beings hear these words, they are certain to realize how difficult it is to encounter the Buddha. In their minds, they will harbor a longing and will thirst to gaze upon the Buddha, and then they will work to plant good roots. Therefore, the thus come one, though in truth he does not enter extinction, speaks of passing into extinction. Good men, the Buddhas, and thus come ones, all preach a law such as this. They act in order to save living beings, so what they do is true and not false. True and not false. Suppose, for example, that there is a skilled physician who is wise in understanding and knows how to compound medicines to effectively cure all kinds of diseases. He has many sons, perhaps 10, 20, or even 100. He goes off to some other land and far away to see about a certain affair. After he is gone, the children drink some kind of poison that makes them distraught with pain, and they fall withering to the ground. At that time, the father returns to his home and finds that his children have drunk poison. Some are completely out of their minds, while others are not. Seeing their father from far off, are all overjoyed and kneel down and entreat him, saying, "How fine that you have returned safely. We were stupid, and by mistake drank some poison. We beg you to cure us and let us live out our lives." The father, seeing his children suffering like this, follows various prescriptions, gathering fine medicinal herbs that meet all the requirements of color, fragrance, and flavor. He grinds, sifts, and mixes them together, giving a dose of these to his children. He tells them this is a highly effective medicine, meeting all the requirements of color, fragrance, and flavor. The Lotus Sutra is over 2,000 years old. When you talk about medicine, at that time, all they had was herbs and nothing else. Not what we have today. I won't say nothing else, but not what we have. Take it, and you will quickly be relieved of your sufferings and will be free of all illness. Those children who have not lost their senses can see that this is good medicine, outstanding in both color and fragrance. So they take it immediately and are completely cured of their sickness. Those who are out of their minds are equally delighted to see their father return and beg him to cure their sickness. But when they are given the medicine, they refuse to take it. Why? Because the poison has penetrated deeply and their minds no longer function as before. So although the medicine is of excellent color and fragrance, they do not perceive it as good. The father thinks to himself, "My poor children, because of the poison in them, their minds are completely befuddled. Although they are happy to see me and ask me to cure them, they refuse to take this excellent medicine. I must now resort to some expedient means to induce them to take the medicine." So he says to them, "You should know that I am now old and worn out, and the time of my death has come.
I'm sorry.
I will leave this good medicine here.
Let's try and talk it up.
You should take it and not worry that it will not cure you." Having given these instructions, he then goes off to another land, where he sends a messenger home to announce, "Your father is dead." At that time, the children, hearing that their father has deserted them and died, are filled with great grief and consternation, and think to themselves, "If our father were alive, he would have pity on us and see that we are protected. But now he has abandoned us and died in some other country far away. We are shelterless orphans with no one to rely on." Constantly harboring such feelings of grief, they at last come to their senses and realize that the medicine is in fact excellent in color and fragrance and flavor. And so they take it and are healed of all the effects of the poison. The father, hearing that his children are all cured, immediately returns home and appears to them all at once. "Good men, what is your opinion? Can anyone say that this skilled physician is guilty of lying?" "No, world-honored one." The Buddha said, It is the same with me. It has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas and ashmaka kalpas since I attained Buddhahood. But for the sake of living beings, I employ the power of expedient means and say that I am about to pass into extinction. In view of the circumstances, however, no one can say that I have been guilty of lies or falsehoods. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning, once more spoke in verse form, saying, Can you explain the difference between prose and verse form in the Lotus Sutra?
Sure, Antoine. In the Lotus Sutra, prose form is more like regular speech or narrative, straightforward and clear, while verse form is poetic, with rhythm and symbolism, often used to emphasize deeper spiritual messages. It's like the sutra speaks in two voices, one plain and one poetic. How does that resonate with your understanding?
Okay, I just read the
Sure,
prose.
In the Lotus Sutra,
Prose form.
prose is like straightforward.
Now I'm going to read the verse. It's the same thing, but it's written in a different way. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning, once more spoke in verse form, saying, Since I attained Buddhahood, the number of kalpas that have passed is an immeasurable hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions, trillions, ashmakas, constantly have preached the law, teaching, converting countless millions of living beings, causing them to enter the Buddha way. All this is for immeasurable kalpas. In order to save living beings, as an expedient means, I appear to enter nirvana, but in truth, I do not pass into extinction. I am always here preaching the law. I am always here, but through my transcendental powers, I make it so that living beings in their befuddlement do not see me even when close by. When the multitude see that I have passed into extinction, far and wide they offer alms to my relics. All harbor thoughts of yearning, and in their minds thirst to gaze at me. When living beings have become truly faithful, honest and upright, gentle in intent, single-mindedly desiring to see the Buddha, not hesitating even if it costs them their lives, then I and the assembly of monks appear together on Holy Eagle Peak. At that time I tell living beings that I am always here, never entering extinction, but that because of the power of an expedient means, at times I appear to be extinct, at other times not extinct. And that if there are living beings in other lands who are reverent and sincere in their wish to believe, then among them too I will preach the unsurpassed law. But you have not heard of this, so you suppose that I enter extinction. When I look at living beings, I see them drowned in a sea of suffering. Therefore I do not show myself, causing them to thirst for me. Then when their minds are filled with yearning, at last I appear and preach the law for them. Such are my transcendental powers. For ashmaka kalpas, constantly I have dwelled on Holy Eagle Peak and in various other places. When living beings witness the end of a kalpa and all is consumed in a great fire, this, my land, remains safe and tranquil, constantly filled with heavenly and human beings. The halls and pavilions in its gardens and groves are adorned with various kinds of gems. Jeweled trees abound in flowers and fruits, where living beings enjoy themselves at ease. The gods strike heavenly drums, constantly making many kinds of music. Mandarava blossoms rain down, scattering over the Buddha and the great assembly. My pure land is not destroyed, yet the multitude see it as consumed in fire, with anxiety, fear, and other sufferings, filling it everywhere. These living beings, with their various offenses, through causes arising from their evil actions, spend asmaka kalpas without hearing the name of the three treasures. But those who practice meritorious ways, who are gentle, peaceful, honest, and upright, all of them will see me here in person preaching the law. At times with this multitude, I describe the Buddha's lifespan as immeasurable. And to those who see the Buddha only after a long time, I explain how difficult it is to meet the Buddha. Such is the power of my wisdom. That is a sagacious beam shined without measure. This lifespan of countless kalpas I gained as the result of lengthy practice. You who are possessed of wisdom entertain no doubts on this point. Cast them off in them forever, for the Buddha's words are true, not false. He is like a skilled physician who uses an expedient means to cure his deranged sons. Though in fact alive, he gives out word he is dead. Yet no one can say he speaks falsely. I am the Father of this world, saving those who suffer and are afflicted because of the befuddlement of ordinary people. Though I live, I give out word I have entered extinction. For if they see me constantly, arrogance and selfishness arise in their minds. Abandoning restraint, they give themselves up to the 5 desires and fall into the evil paths of existence. Always I am aware of which living beings practice the way and which do not, and in response to their needs for salvation, I preach various doctrines for them. At all times I think to myself, how can I cause living beings to gain entry into the unsurpassed way and quickly acquire the body of a Buddha? That's the end of the 16th chapter. Transmission complete. The Buddha is not gone, he never was. And if this reflection resonated, drop your thoughts below. How do you experience the eternal Dharma in your own life? Subscribe to My Dharma Path for mythic transmissions, poetic teachings, and spiritual synthesis. The path continues. The Buddha is always here. The title in Sanskrit of the Lotus Sutra is Dharma Pundarika Sutra. When they chant, they say, Namaste Dharma Pundarika Sutra.